Hey everyone, this is Dylan, and today I'm going to be doing a movie review for you guys. So the movie I'm reviewing today is Candyman 1992. In honor of the new Candyman coming out, I thought I would do a review of the original Candyman. Let me just tell you, this movie is great. So now let's get into the synopsis. So we are following Helen and her friend Bernadette. And Helen is doing her thesis over an urban legend. And this urban legend is revolving around Candyman. And the urban legend goes that you say the name Candyman in a mirror 5 times, and this Candyman will come and kill you, I guess. And we find out this tragic backstory of the character of Candyman, and how he is now basically like haunting the grounds where his ashes were spread. And those grounds happen to be in Cabrini Green, a Chicago urban housing project. And Helen and Bernadette end up getting really wrapped up in this urban legend to the point where they might not make it out alive. And that's where I'm going to leave the synopsis. So let's start off with talking about Clive Barker. So Clive Barker is the one who wrote the book that this was based off of, the short story. It is called The Forbidden, and this short story revolved around the British class system rather than what the movie portrays, which is the American social class system as well as race. And I think that the new additions are very important, and I think that it plays really well with what I think that the story was about. I haven't read the story. I have the Books of Blood hardcover book. Unfortunately, it only comes with the first 3 Books of Blood, and apparently The Forbidden is in one of the other books, which are all sold separately. So I haven't been able to get that and read it, but it's only, I think, only about 30-some pages. But I've heard that it's pretty good, and I know that there's quite a few differences from the book to what the movie actually became. And now let's talk about the director, Bernard Rose. He was the one that was interested in making these changes, and I believe that he did talk to Clive Barker and make sure that it was okay that he include this commentary about race and also the American class system, because I think that that's also very important. And in this movie, we do see the differences between the classes that we have in America. The lower class, which were the ones that are at Cabrini Green, and then we have like the upper class, which would be like Helen and Bernadette, and Helen's high-rise apartment, which actually was previously a housing project, which is basically the idea of gentrification. And I think that that is an important thing, and I believe that that's kind of what the 2021 Candyman is addressing. Now let's get into the actors. So Virginia Madsen is playing Helen Lyle, and she's the student, and I think that her performance is really great. And it's very interesting, the character arc that Helen has, and how we see many sides of Helen, and we see a lot of potentially this kind of white savior complex, and it's very interesting to say the least. And then we have the Candyman himself, Tony Todd, and I think that Tony Todd's performance was really great in this as well. He had to endure a lot as an actor in this movie, specifically the scene where he has bees in his mouth. This process was done through putting a guard in his mouth, and then they just had to shove a bunch of bees in his mouth. And good for him, but he actually negotiated a deal where he would get an extra $1,000 for every bee sting that he got while on set, and apparently it ended up being about 23 bee stings So he ended up making $23,000 just in bee stings. So that's actually a really, really smart on his part, and I think that the character of Candyman is so interesting, and I think that Tony Todd adds another level, specifically his voice. I think his voice is very smooth and very deep, and it really adds a lot to the character. I think Tony Todd's stature also adds a lot to the character. One of my favorite scenes related to Candyman in this movie is when we first see the introduction of Candyman, and it's in a parking garage, and we just see the silhouette of Tony Todd, and I think that silhouette is so strong with this like really almost dress-like coat that's like too big, and then his hook hand, and I think that is just really, really interesting. And we need to talk about one of the characters all in and of itself, Cabrini Green. And like I mentioned earlier, Cabrini Green is one of the Chicago urban housing projects, and they actually went to the Cabrini Green site and filmed. And so it was kind of dangerous to go and film there, and they went and they filmed there for 3 days, and I think I commend them for that. I think that that is great. And I mean, while it probably isn't good to encourage gangs, they actually use some of those people that lived at Cabrini Green in the movie. So some of the people that you see in Cabrini Green are the actual people that live there. So I think that that's a very interesting element, and the Cabrini Green complex was torn down officially in 2011, which is kind of insane. I want to talk next about the ethics of Candyman, which is kind of weird, but it's one of the things that I kind of had an issue with or didn't necessarily understand about this movie. And so we go into the story of Candyman and how he became Candyman. He was the son of a slave and he was an artist, and he fell in love with a white man's daughter. And so that was very taboo at the time. Basically, the town kind of like lynched him, and they covered his body in honey. He died from bee stings, and that's why bees are a part of this movie. It's horrible. They cut his arm off, or they cut his hand off. It was a terrible thing. But in this movie, he kills people that don't say his name in the mirror, so it doesn't follow the urban legend. He kills African American people, which is also like, that's the part that I mostly don't understand, because wouldn't he want revenge? I mean, the only way that I can see him wanting to do that is because those are the only people that are there, because his ashes are spread across Cabrini Green, so that's where he haunts. But I don't know, it just doesn't make a ton of sense, and I think that that's one of the more unclear spots in this movie. I also thought that potentially the addition of the Ruthie Jean storyline is kind of maybe done in a little bit of poor taste. This Ruthie Jean is the name of a woman in the movie who was murdered. Ruthie Jean was based off of the person Ruthie Mae McCoy, which also the last name McCoy was in this movie, which also is like, I don't know how I feel about that. But basically they use her story and her name to tell the story of Candyman. I don't know necessarily why it would be important to use this real life tragedy and bring it into this movie when you could easily just make up a name and it could be somebody else, and it could be like an allusion to what happened. You don't need to actually use the person's name. I don't know, I just thought it might have been in a little bit of poor taste. But let's talk about the set designs. I think that the set designs were gorgeous. I don't know how much of them were like commissioned versus how much of them were real. I loved particularly all the graffiti that was at Cabrini Green. I get the feeling that that was there, that was real. I think one of the best pieces of graffiti in this movie is when Helen goes into the abandoned apartment and there's like a hole in the wall and she walks through the hole in the wall and it's the depiction of Candyman's face and she's coming out of his mouth. I think that that is one of the most visually interesting scenes in this movie. And to round out this review, I want to talk about how I think that there might be a 4K coming soon. I was looking at my Scream Factory disc and it said that it was a 2K scan of it was a 2K restoration of a 4K scan, and I believe that Candyman is with Universal, so we could see a potential 4K of Candyman when the new Candyman comes out on like DVD and Blu-ray. I think that that is a really good possibility because we just saw that Universal's releasing a 4K of The Thing, so I don't think that Candyman's out of the realm of possibility. I also wanted to mention about the Scream Factory release. It comes with a theatrical cut and an unrated cut, and I did a little research, and apparently it's only a couple scenes are different, and it's literally frames. Like a couple frames are missing from the theatrical cut that's added to the unrated cut, and it doesn't change the time difference at all. So if you're interested in which one you should watch, I mean, I guess you watch the unrated cut, but it doesn't really matter because they're both basically the same movie. Like, there's no additional scenes or anything like that. And the original Candyman spawned 2 sequels, Farewell to the Flesh and Day of the Dead, I believe. I'm not 100% sure on the third one. And I believe that this new one is a direct sequel to the original. I don't think it's a remake per se, but I also don't know for sure. I have not seen it. I hope that I'll be able to see it in theaters, but it's not looking too good. And to say that I'm excited about Candyman 2021 is a bit of an understatement. This is one of the movies that I really want to go see, but I don't necessarily... I'm in one of the hotspots for the thing that's going on, and I don't necessarily feel comfortable sitting in a movie theater, and I don't know. So hopefully I'll be able to see it, but if not, I'll have to wait, which isn't that big of a deal. So that is it for this review. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think of Candyman 1992, whether you like it or you don't like it, and why. And remember, if you're not already subscribed and you'd like to be, please hit that subscribe button down below and give this video a like if you liked it. Thank you guys for watching and have a great day. Bye.